Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome along to this Zeald webinar, the fourth in our Keep Calm and Get Digital series. My name is Jarrett and I'll be your moderator for today. As the impacts of COVID-19 build all around us, it's becoming clear that the old ways of doing things are not really working anymore. Business in New Zealand is going to have to rapidly evolve and transform to survive. And if you're changing the way that your business works, you're selling online, working remotely, it is critical that you communicate this effectively, both to your internal stakeholders and to your customers externally. That is why today's topic is about the importance of strong communication in these times of uncertainty. We have some fantastic speakers today. First up, we have Felicity Anderson, Director of Trio Communications. Felicity has a wealth of knowledge in the communication and PR industry, and we are very lucky to have her speak with us today. Welcome, Felicity. Also on our panel today is Lisa, the Client Services Manager here at Zeald. Lisa has been heavily involved in our communication strategies and will be providing some insight into how we have approached this over the last few weeks. So I should have probably put the slides on so that we could introduce both of them. There we go. And then a little bit of housekeeping before we get started, how this webinar will run today. So if you feel like you've got any questions and you'd like to post them, feel free to do so through this Q&A tool that we have at the bottom of your Zoom program. However, you're welcome to maybe bring them up at the end as well when we've got a Q&A session. If you when we get to the Q&A session, you're welcome to put your hand up also and ask questions that way too. We will turn on your mic if that is the case. So I hope you enjoy today's session, and I'd like to invite Felicity to get started and take us through her views on the importance of strong communication. Welcome, Felicity.
Oh, thanks, Jared. And hi, everybody. Glad to be here on this beautiful sunny day. And it's Friday, which is even more a bit of a bonus. I'll just have a quick intro about myself. I'm pretty down-to-earth kind of person. I was a journalist for 25 years and did a lot of financial journalism and business journalism. But at the same time, because I'm nuts, I also owned and operated a sports retail and import business, and then finally decided that I better make some money. So I started up a PR company called Trio Communications. And it doesn't mean that there's three of us. It actually means us, the audience, and sort of the client. So it's kind of that triangle going around each way. So my background is wide and varied. I'm probably the master of nothing, and know a whole lot of stuff about a whole lot of stuff. But anyway, so what I want to do is I want to move straight into our seminar and have some talk about communications in this time. This is not going to be one of those things where I kind of yell at you and tell you what you should be doing. This is going to be a sort of an interactive working thing. So the first thing I want you to do is I want to make sure that you've got like a piece of paper that you've got and a pen. So you've got 10 seconds to gather that, and just draw it up into 3 columns, which sort of based on what you see on the screen there now: lockdown, week 1, and where to from here. And as we go along, I'm going to encourage you to write down some stuff so that when we finish this, you can go back and have a look at what you've written down and go on, and you'll go, oh. Well, I'm hoping you'll go, oh. Anyway, so if you've got that sussed and organised, I thought I'd just ask a few of you to have a think about lockdown. So you don't have to answer this in terms of on the chat or anything like that, but how many of you actually had a business continuity plan? What's that? Some people will say, and other people will say, yep, got that, really sweet, not a problem. If you don't know what a business continuity plan is, Google it up later and wrap your little brain cells around how it might help you in the future. But I'm not here to talk about a total business continuity plan. I'm going to be focused on the communication side of your business. Now, that doesn't mean IT. A lot of people go, communications, oh, that's the IT infrastructure, sort of how my systems all work and whether I can work remotely. I'm not talking about that. What I'm going to talk to you about is how you communicate with your audiences. And you think, what the hell are audiences? Well, they are a variety of different things. So I'm going to lead you through that.
Sorry, just before we get too far, I think Ian's put his hand up. I think he might have been wanting to ask a question. Is that right, Ian? Or were you just getting us?
Sure.
Ian, you can let us know if you had a question, or alternatively, you just letting us know you had a continuity plan. I'm not sure.
There's a little chat function at the bottom of your screen there. That if you just want to type something in on chat, I can keep an eye on that onto one side, and because I can try and multitask. Yeah, right. We'll see
Cool.
how that goes. Anyway.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, we'll just maybe Ian was just letting us know he had a continuity plan. So good on you, Ian.
Well done, Ian. Yep.
Right. So I'll let you carry on, Felicity. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, if you do want to ask a question, just use the little Q&A panel, and I can bring them to Felicity's attention while she's working through her presentation.
Yep, sure, I'm really happy to do that. That's not a problem at all. So let's have a look at what audiences mean. And I think the most key one is your people. Without a business, without the people in your business, you haven't got a business really. So staff, on that little piece of paper that I encouraged you, and I see a couple of people have jumped in, and I got you to get a piece of paper like that, draw it up into 3 columns and write lockdown, week 1, and where to from here. So what were you doing to talk to your staff before lockdown happened? Have a think about it and just jot down a few things. So obviously it was face-to-face. Well, it must have been. You probably emailed them a whole lot. Maybe you had phone calls with them. Maybe you've got a communication system that, when they're out on the road, that you can contact them with. So just jot all those things down, okay? And in the same column, then think about, who else did I talk to? Who are these audiences this mad woman's talking about? Well, what about your shareholders? And you and your business partner might have 50-50 shares in your company, but there might be some other people. There might be silent investors. There might be, sort of a staff share scheme that needs to know what's going on in your business. How did you talk to them? The other side of that shareholding is the bank. How did you talk to the bank? Did you have a personal banker, or did you just try and sort of communicate through whoever you could get to? And the other one, of course, is a landlord. How did you talk to your landlord? Probably not a lot, unless you had a complaint about something going on with your factory or your, sort of office building. Normally it was just you paid the rent through the account. But how did you talk to them? Okay, and then after that, a lot of you would have had suppliers, and that's a real key one at the moment, isn't it? So how did you communicate with your suppliers? Was it just through paying the invoices every month and picking up the phone to say, hey, I need, 5 ton of bricks or whatever it was? What was that channel that you used, and what kind of relationships did you have with them? And then finally, and there may be more, but I'm just going to stick to these key ones, is your customers. The people that, the reason your business exists, your customers. How did you communicate with them? There could have been a lot of ways that you did that, through your website, through emails, through, sort of a regular monthly e-news, all of those things. So just think about, how did I get my message through to my customers? It also may have been advertising and marketing and those kinds of things. So you might like to jot that down too. Okay, that's that first column. So I'd like to ask you all how you're doing after week 1, but we could go on for hours about, who's been exercising and keeping social distancing, and, whether people spit when they run and all those things.
And whose dogs are really tired after going for walks every day.
Yeah, all of that kind of thing. But let's just stick to the plan at hand here, and that's, what's happening? What's happening with your business? For some of you, like my husband is a self-employed builder, it means he has no work. So now he has a wife at home going, ha, I can get all that maintenance done. But if you don't have any work, does that mean that all the communications channels just should stop? And I'm going to make an argument soon that they shouldn't. Okay, so some of you might be doing some work from home or a lot of work from home, and you consider how you've set yourself up, how efficient it is, whether the connections that you have are working for you okay. I don't know if we have anybody from the rural community connected in here, but damn it, I would hate to be on less than ultra fast fibre at the moment, because you know, things slow down quite remarkably at certain times of the day. And we've all heard the dramas about Netflix, you know, sort of sucking up all the bandwidth and things. So, you know, you've got to take all that into consideration and look at how you can effectively use what communication channels you have available for you. Okay, and then I was going to put a little thing there about, you know, whether you are having meetings, you know, like this, for an example, like through webinars or through Zoom. And I'll come back to that at the moment. And I just want you to write a little word on that column down there and put security ? Okay, so we've done all that, and you've got up to speed with that. Okay, so in the staff column, I want you now to have a think about the people in your team. And this was brought home to me I was on a chat with a whole bunch of people that I work with at the Beehive in Takapuna, where I've got my office, and where I'm trying to keep that community together by having a regular, you know, once a week meeting through Zoom meetings, actually. And we were talking about how you're going after week 1, and somebody brought up the fact that, hey, I'm really happy, I'm great, I love being at home, I enjoy my own company. And I'm thinking, you're bloody mad, because I like people, I like to be face to face with people and engage with them in that way. And it was really interesting. So you've got to think about the people in your own team and consider what type of personality they are, and how they should, you know, how you need to communicate with them. A friend of mine from Deloitte talked to us once, and she said there are all sorts of different personality types, and we've all heard of those types of things, but she divided them up into a pioneer, so somebody who was outgoing and spontaneous and, you know, imaginative and all those kinds of things. And then there was another type that was a driver, who were really quantitative and logical and, you know, sort of quite focused and deeply curious. Well, you find that the pioneer type that I've described versus the driver type, they can cross over a bit, but the pioneer is kind of person just rushes off and does the next thing and leaves everybody else to pick up the mess. You know, that's why teams have got to have different things. And then the other two were diplomatic, somebody who was sort of relationship orientated and non-confrontational. Does this ring any bells to anybody? You have people in your team that are non-confrontational but are always watching. And then you've got the other ones, the guardians, that are methodical and, you know, sort of very much practical and structured. And that was what somebody else said. I really hate this lockdown because it's really interrupted my routine. There are people who just love routine. They love getting out of bed at the same time and doing what they do, get to work, and, you know, the routine is pretty structured right throughout the day. And that's their comfort. That's their comfort zone. So there may be people in your team that are very routine-driven people, and this has completely disrupted their lives. So you've got to take that into consideration and think, do they need an extra bit of love through the phone or through FaceTime or whatever? So, you know, sort of got to take all that into consideration when you're dealing with the communication channels and how you're going to deal with individual members of your team. Okay, so where to from here? So I want to go into that column 3 and go, let's start with shareholders, because without them, you don't really have a business either. So how have you been gathering information with regard to your bank? You know, what's happening out there? Can you get a loan? Can you defer mortgage payments? That kind of thing. You need to look at finding communication channels, you know, that exist that you can pick up on. Or if you've got a really good personal banker, pick up the phone or email that person and saying, help, I need to talk to you at some stage. I'd like to know what this means for me. Burying your head in the sand is not a communications channel. Okay, and the same with your landlord. I emailed mine and said, hey mate, looks like we're not going to be there for a while. You know, I'd quite like to discuss the fact that I'm not going to be able to access, you know, what's there and what that means. And they've come back and said, like, we're putting it all on a rent holiday, while you can't access the office and use its facilities, we're just putting everything on hold. But if you decide that you finally want to quit out of here and shift your office, then you're up for the normal, you know, payment that you have to make. So that was about just like establishing that straight away. So it took the you know, the what if out of it. Unfortunate. Some won't be so fortunate, but there are channels there that you can get. Just go for the trusted ones. Okay, and then that was, and then customers. Oh, suppliers, the same thing. So in that third column again, write down suppliers. How should you be talking to your suppliers, or do you just ignore them? You're not working, so it doesn't matter. You don't need that timber, or you don't need, you know, the paint, or whatever it is that you don't need. But wouldn't it be nice to sort of like send an email to them and just say, it's Joe here from XYZ, just letting you know that we're not an essential service, so we're not working at the moment, but appreciate all the stuff that you've done for us in the past, and as soon as we're back up and running, I'll be back in touch. So it's about keeping those channels open. Also, suppliers will still be sending out invoices, so if they know where you are and that you've informed them that your business is basically on hold, they will understand better then that, you know, sort of like the money might be coming a bit slower. Okay, so customers, again, you know, well, they don't know what's happening in your head or in your space or in your bubble. So if there's a way that you can communicate with your customers, some people send out an e-news once a month just to say, this is what's happening, this is our new, you know, fabrics or products or units or whatever you have, and just to let people know. And if people get really annoyed about it, they just unsubscribe. But you know, think about how it is that you can get out to your customers. Should you be sending out something to them special if you don't normally? And if so, how do you go about that? Do you have a database of all those people? If you have got a database, that's gold. You can keep communicating with them. There was a story recently in the paper about a guy that felt so sorry for his local cafe that he set up a thing which was about pay it forward, and he was encouraging other people to buy vouchers for that cafe just to keep the sort of cash flow running in for the cafe. There wasn't a follow-up story, so I don't know how well it worked, but you know, people are pretty loyal and are pretty generally willing to help, and if they've got the wherewithal to do it, they might just do that. So don't discount those kinds of actions as well. Okay, so that's the other thing I wanted to talk about too, is your website. Please don't look at mine because I've been inundated. But have you talked to Zeald about your website, and is there a way that you can put something up on your page or on your home page of your website which just gives a status update? That could be the simplest way of doing it. So if that's an opportunity that you've got, then go for it. It wouldn't take very much to do it.
Yeah, just on that, Felicity, we've actually had a lot of people get in touch with us getting pop-ups configured, messages running on their site, or putting in live chat as well, just so they can use the website as a real communication channel with their customers and keep them advised of you know, their business status, how they're operating and what they're changing.
A really, really good idea. So if you haven't done it yet, you know, get in touch and do it. Okay, this is not a complete, we'll go to the next slide, Jar. That one, yep.
There you go.
Cool.
Yep.
So
this is going to swipe across as if it was a giant screen. or you were slapping me, one or the other.
What was I doing? I didn't swipe. I didn't swipe right. Haha. Anyway, so this is not a complete communication strategy. I just want to bring this up. You know, something that you can use during this crisis. Okay, so if you have got a cell phone near you, I suggest you sort of take it out and just, you know, take a little photo of that slide. because it'll guide you. It's a sort of a five tips to guiding you. So if you start with number one and you want to identify your goal, what is your communications goal? Well, it's about business longevity, isn't it? It's about getting enough information out there that people know you're alive, they know that you're on hold or you're still working or whatever it is in between, and that, you want to keep engaging with them. If you go to number two, understand the situation. So hopefully some of the stuff that you've written down in those three columns starts to show you just where you're at the moment, where you've come from, which could have been good or not so good or bloody dreadful, or it could have been, in a work in progress. So, and then in two, you've been forced into this situation. So, where are you at the moment? And then in three, where do you want to be? How can you make it better? And then we go to number three, gain insights to your target audiences. Okay, so if you got a chance, it's still really good to be able to communicate with them and empathize with them about, isn't this shit, the situation we're in? How are you going? Oh, okay, gee, I didn't know that. Yeah, well, we're doing this. So, that personal contact during the situation can actually build relationships that will endure past this crisis. So have a think about that, and maybe that's something that you can make a list, a prioritizing list, and slowly work through in the next week. Okay, we move on to four. So select the most appropriate communications tool. Well, the other day I had my education extended somewhat. I've never heard of Slack, but a lot of people are using Slack as a communications tool between teams. There's other things like Microsoft Teams, a whole variety of them, but it would appear amongst the big fraternity that I was talking to that Slack was one that was a really good Teams-based communications tool. So I've got a mental note to myself to go and look that up and see how that compares to Microsoft Teams. Then, things like this webinar, you look at the different ways that you can have meetings, like Zoom is a really good one. The Prime Minister got absolutely castigated the other day because they said that it's not 100% private, that those cabinet meetings shouldn't be held on something like that, and they could get hacked and all the rest of it. Yeah, well, for most of us that aren't running the affairs of state, it's actually quite a good little tool. And then I'm sure a lot of you have probably used or know about Skype. Again, I noticed the media are using Skype quite a lot to be able to, bring people into their programs. They Skype them into their programs. So, they're quite easy, Skype. There's some others called, like Hangouts.google.com, DiscordApp.com. My family and I have gone on to House Party. So it might be something that you and your teams can, your staff can go and have a house party. It sounds ridiculous, but it's one of the fastest growing apps that there are around.
Let's hope the government don't start using House Party for their meetings.
Well, it'd be appropriate, the House of Parliament. But no, they wouldn't. It's more of a sort of like a, on a very sort of informal level house party. And it's like FaceTime. I'm sure that some of you use FaceTime with your family and to be able to talk to other bubbles. And then, of course, there's the old standard of WhatsApp and heaps of others too. But what I'm trying to say to you is there is, in this day and age, such a myriad of ways of trying to communicate or being able to communicate channels. Just select what is the most appropriate for you, whether that's with you, with your staff, or you with your, shareholders, whatever, and make sure that everybody is on the same app. And some people won't, they won't have, some older people don't understand this. So telephone is always good to ring up and have a chat and just get them to write down some instructions and work them through it. So a lot of the millennials seem to be so reticent to actually make a phone call, but it still works, people. Okay, so think about if there's anything else that you've got. You can suggest it in the chat sessions or whatever you want to do. So take that 5 tips and the columns that you've got and kind of put it all together and work through, what have I got now, where am I heading, how can I improve, and where do I want to be in a week's time, and in a month's time, once we start to hopefully come out of this.
Oh, thanks, Felicity. Oh, sorry. Felicity, I just have one question for you. If you're just getting started developing your own communication strategy, so say you haven't got something like this already put in place, would a good idea be to try and develop a different strategy for each of the different alert levels, perhaps, so that you could advise people what you're able to do when each of those alert levels change? Would that be a good way to break it up and get started?
I would actually keep it really basic for a start. I would actually just get a basic one and use that as your core. And once you've got that and you've got that totally embedded in, it's like running a business. Once you've got your absolute core and the foundations there, then you can start to make the embroidery over and above that.
Gotcha.
Now, in terms of sort of like emergency plans going forward and emergency communications, there's some really nifty little apps coming up, and you can probably Google for those, that basically will run your whole emergency communications for you. So you all get everybody onto this particular one that you choose, and then it pulls in all the information. In this case, there's one for COVID-19. It tells you what's happening every day with COVID-19, and then it's got a reporting in segment so that you know that all your staff are okay. And then after that, it's sort of got sort of things, actions that have to be taken, and a management tool. So there are lots out there. So it's it's a really good way to go moving forward. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you.
Right, so I've only got a couple of more things to say. So, one of the things I'd like to sort of say to you guys is, now is not the time to not communicate, and also not to advertise and market. A lot of people, when they consider cutting their costs because they're forced into a situation where the cash flow isn't as great as it has been, the first thing they do is to cut their advertising, which is exactly why Bauer Media has just folded, because all the advertisers have gone, oh my God, the sky's falling, and they've pulled their ads, which is really interesting. A mate of mine sent me a thing from Forbes magazine the other day, and it was a salutary lesson. And the first thing was, in the Great Depression, Post cereal, which is a category leader, dropped their ad spending. So Kellogg doubled its spending, and it increased profitability by 30% and took over the category. Another one, in the 90 to 91 recession, the Pizza Hut and Taco Bell took advantage of McDonald's decision to drop advertising and promotions. And as a result, Pizza Hut increased by 61%, Taco Bell grew by 40%, and McDonald's sales declined by 28%. So it's certainly worth thinking about that. It would seem the easiest thing to do is to just slash all of that, but maybe this is the time that you shouldn't be slashing all that. Okay, that's me. Any questions? Any further questions?
Cool. Thank you very much, Felicity. There's some great stats there. That's fantastic. So I don't see if we've got any questions come through immediately, but I would like to introduce our other panelist and invite Lisa to come in as well. We've got a couple of questions here for Lisa, and if anyone that's on the call at the moment has any questions for either of our panelists, if you could post them through the Q&A section, that would be fantastic. And you're welcome to stay, Felicity. We've got a few questions we'll come through, I'm sure, that for you a little bit later. So Lisa, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Can you just start my video?
I'm asking to start your video. There you go. Looks like it's going. Cool. Excellent. So obviously, from a Zeald point of view, we've got a bit of a communication policy that we've put in place. What have you done differently when communicating internally since this crisis eventuated?
Well, I think we've done quite a few things. I might miss one or two, but I think the overall, I guess, focus on what we have done is communicating more through different channels. So for starters, we're through using video conferencing. We've actually started adding a couple of extra meetings each day. They're quick 10 to 15 minute stand-ups, so nothing too long. There's still a purpose behind them, so whether it's to deliver important messages or providing updates of where everyone's at, or it's going over KPIs or the focuses of work, that's still the purpose of the meeting, but there's just a couple more each day. It's useful for that. It's also useful for the manager who's generally in there to be checking in and seeing how everyone's doing, and not just looking for, I guess, verbal cues of people actually saying, I'm not coping, or this isn't right. You can see on their face or and where they are and how they're interacting, and make some changes. And I know we've actually done that, and been able to pick up on that. Another step that we've taken to communicate differently is we are sending out more group-wide emails. So it's very important with the changes that we're making within the company and our vision right now, that we're communicating that out to everyone. So our CEO and our chairman have both been sending out company-wide emails with a different focus for some of them. So some are emailing tips around how to remote work, how to keep yourself, mentally healthy, getting out there and not just having this I'm at home and I'm always working mentality. And then the other way we're utilizing that is to keep everyone up to date on the company changes and the vision and the mission that we've got out there right now. So it's a great tool to keep everyone on the same page. Then another thing we've done just to sort of boost positivity, because we aren't all in the same room anymore. We don't just walk into an office and you hear someone go, "Yoo-hoo, I've just done this," So we do actually have a company-wide group chat. It is only used, though, there are rules around it, to share a positive experience or a win someone's just had. So sometimes we share our client success stories in there, and it's just a good booster for everyone to see, we might not be in the best environment out in the physical world, but there's still exciting things going on out there. And then on a more social side, we are actually currently playing a game of Guess the Work Setup. So that's due to close today. I know we had about 50 entries, so I think everyone's probably really enjoying that.
Oh, that's awesome. And so why have these internal communication changes been so important from your point of view?
Mainly because we're not in the same room. So, it's getting everyone on the same page. When you're in an office, that's easy. You can get everyone quickly into a meeting room to discuss something. You can make an announcement on the floor. You can, you are sitting right next to someone. You can ask them for help a lot more easier. So now with remote working, it is really important that the messaging that is going out there is consistent and it's right across the company in the same way we would work within the office.
Okay, that's awesome. And so we've talked a bit about internal communications there. What have you been doing differently when it comes to external communications?
Quite a bit, actually. So we've definitely boosted this. So just some simple changes we've made, which is in line with what we tell our clients as well. We've used our website to let everyone know that we are open, we're working, and we're available to help. So it's all right there when you enter our homepage. It's also on our help site that we offer, so everyone does know that we're open and there's people here to help. Another thing that we quickly put in place are these webinars. So we've, for the past 5 years have actually been having some remote working, and it's what we're partially formed of. So we are wanting to share that knowledge. And then we've also tied in sharing our knowledge about websites and digital marketing as well. I think, though, one area we certainly have ramped up on quite a lot is our social spaces. So we've started more actively posting out there. Part of that's because of the message that we've changed and some of the offers that we're trying to put out there to help people right now. But we've really ramped that up and we just want to get this out to as many people as possible, and social is a really good platform for that. Especially when it's just other people, not just our clients, whereas some of the offers we're putting out there for our own clients to help them right now has been done through email marketing.
Okay, awesome. And do you have any general tips around communication?
Yeah, I have two. I'll do one for internal and one for external. So the first one for internally, I think it's just really important that that open door policy is discussed, or at least put out there a lot. Everyone needs right now to feel they can talk to and trust the teams that are leading them through what's going on. And I did actually see an article in NZ Herald yesterday that did say people trust in those leaders in times like this. So open door policy, no questions too dumb, just come and talk to me, is really important. And then moving into externally, and this is one I actually picked up off of you, Jara.
Okay.
I think it's really important to think about the imagery that you're using with your communications. So we're all well aware of COVID-19, and you know we had a webinar at one stage, and just some of the imagery was quite heavy and exploring this COVID-19 space. And I know you, Jara, sort of said, let's use the image to not, you know, lighten the mood, but let's not use it to really just drive that. We can still deliver a message and still have a well-suited image that doesn't have to be quite doom and gloom. So I think that's really important, and that's where that whole, you know, picture is 1,000 words really comes into play.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. It's kind of hard enough with everything going on out there without making things a bit darker. I think there's a lot of real positivity out there if we focus on it, and if we can use that with any kind of external comms and imagery, it's really important. So we've kind of running a bit short on time, so we've got time for a couple of questions. Please feel free to post them through the Q&A section. I have got one here that's come through. Perhaps Felicity would like to take this, and I think it's a really good question too. So how often should I email my database? And so very simple, but also there's a lot to that, right? Do you have any tips around that, Felicity?
Yeah, the basic answer to that is not so often that you really annoy them. I could have put it a different way, but I mollified my language somewhat. We all go through, you know, sort of getting emails in our box and just think, oh, bugger, and file it in file number 13. So I guess it's knowing who the people are. Always think about the audience, and a good way of doing that is by putting yourself in their shoes. Do they need to know this, or am I just spamming them for the sake of, you know, sort of waving my banner? And if that's what you're doing, then it's probably going to annoy them. But if you've got a really important message for them that you think that person or that audience is going to really go, that was really good, and I'm glad they sent that to me, you know, in their subconscious, then that's the time to do it.
Okay, awesome. Great answer. That's really careful. Yeah. So, and then I've got one last question here. And maybe both of you could answer this. What would be your favorite communication channel? And so I think probably my interpretation of that is what's the one that you would recommend most people start with or use mostly?
Oh, Lisa,
Again, I'm going to have two because there are different ones. So yeah, right now internally, I think I am actually enjoying the Zooms. I have been joking this week that my life has turned into one big Zoom call, but I think I am enjoying it. And in fact, I've got my family to be using it so we can all connect because we're not all on Facebook and all of that.
Okay.
In terms of externally, right now, just with our messaging, I feel like LinkedIn/Facebook, so more that social side, is working a lot better because email marketing, you only have a database, whereas social media, you can share, you can, you know, get the word out there. So that's probably the platform I'm enjoying most there.
Cool. Awesome.
I go along with Zoom meetings. They're just so damn easy, aren't they? You know, anybody can do it. You click a link and basically you get there. So I'm using that a lot. In terms of, apart from House Party, the thing that I'm loving the most is my FaceTime ability on my iPhone. So I can talk to my granddaughter who's 5 months every day and get a lovely smile out of her via FaceTime. That's hilarious. So yeah.
That's awesome. I know that my son was actually playing a board game with his grandmother over FaceTime yesterday.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. I thought that was pretty cool. So look, we haven't got a heck of a lot of time left, so I'm just going to wrap things up now. COVID-19 is forcing us to change the way that we work, buy, and quite frankly, live. And so here's a few tips. What we do know is that businesses are having to change the way that they operate quickly. And so when you're making that sort of significant change, internal and external communications about these changes are absolutely vital. The opportunity here is, though, that when you're, as Felicity so rightly pointed out with those great examples, that when your competitors go quiet, it is an opportunity to gain market share by being loud. So keep that in mind, that there is opportunity here amid the chaos. And our big prediction is that those businesses that are really transparent with their customers are more likely to retain them during this time. We're already seeing things like that with potentially, I think it was the cafe example with vouchers being sold to support businesses. If you're really transparent and communicate with your customers there, then you are more likely to survive this. So our recommendation is that you use this lockdown period to really work on your business. Often a lot of business people that I've talked to don't have a lot of time to work on their business. They're too busy in it, but this is sometimes a bit of a chance to pause and work on your business so that you can review, adapt, and evolve quickly and be at the forefront of the recovery that's coming. All right, a little bit about Zeald just before we wrap up. We've helped over 15,000 businesses transform digitally in the last 20 years. If you would like any additional support on configuring maybe some digital tools to aid your communication, please do let us know. We provide a free strategy session or even website audit via our strategy team. Please just let us know if you'd like this through the feedback form that we'll be sending out later on today. We will be running webinars like this once or twice a week. I say once or twice a week because the next 2 weeks are impacted by Easter, so we'll only be doing one a week. And we're going to share our top tips for you to adapt and evolve in this challenging time. Our next webinar is on radical transformation for survival. Zeald founder and chairman David Kelly will be our guest speaker. So join us next Wednesday for some expert advice on how you can transform and evolve your business. One further thought, on Monday, Zeald launched our Get E-commerce movement. We are helping 500 Kiwi businesses launch e-commerce sites for free. We feel that this is a great way that we can help a lot of SME businesses survive COVID-19 by helping them get online. So we want to do our bit to help here with this initiative. So if you can go to zeald.com, you can get more details there about how people can apply to get these free e-commerce sites. I want to put a special thanks to our presenters and panelists today. Felicity, Lisa, we appreciate your valuable insights, and that is all we have time for today, folks. If you missed part of this webinar or you'd like to see it again, we will be posting it on YouTube and on the landing page for this webinar series. If you know anyone that might benefit from attending these in the future, please feel free to share the link. I wish you a good day and good luck through the lockdown.
Awesome. Thanks, Jara.
Cool. Thank you.